Sally, your name, your business, tell us what you're about.
Okay. My name is Sally Gillroy. I own BMD Events Limited. BMD's been going for about 2.5 years, but I've actually had the last few months off, and I'm just looking to restart it again. So,
tell us what it does. It's not obvious by the name.
I basically do corporate events. I organise corporate events, so it's event management. I've worked mainly in the last 8 years in the pharmaceutical world.
You mean doing events in the pharmaceutical world?
Yes, medical events, marketing events, that sort of thing. I'm looking to stay within the pharmaceutical world, but also expand out into doing other areas of business as well. My thing is, I've lost a little bit of confidence over the last few months because I've taken some time off, which I've never been able to do in all my working life. And it's my biggest thing is really picking up that phone, making some cold calls. What's the best way of marketing these days? Is it to go online? Is it to make the old, cold calling? What's the best way?
So let's unwind
and most sort of cost-effective way of marketing a business these days?
So there's never a generic answer, right? Especially for a boutique business. So let's unwind and go back one step, and because what you've already accomplished probably contains the answer within it, right? So you've been doing this for how many years? The BMD events? Just approximately.
BMD's been going 2.5 years.
All right, and you've been doing events as a standalone business in the pharmaceutical world for those 2.5 years.
Yes.
And therefore, for 2.5 years, you've had customers.
I had one major customer. I worked for one main pharmaceutical company.
Are they still a customer?
No, my contract ended earlier this year.
What percentage of your business was that contract?
99%. Because
okay. So we want to grow the 1%, basically.
Yeah. It was a full-on. It was
That's fine.
Just
Why did it conclude? Why did it come to an end?
They're having to review their whole strategy. They're going to be losing some patents soon, so they're looking at all their costs.
What you mean
so
is
it's a
they're
cost
cutting
review.
costs.
Yeah.
They're not looking at them.
No. They've been
A
doing
much more
it
active verb could be involved here.
They've been doing it over the last 2 or 3 years in
so
preparation
this is a restart.
for this. For me, it is. As I said, I took the last few months off, and it is now a restart from scratch. So it's almost like having a new business. At the moment, I'm writing a business plan.
Let's jump into the question at hand. Business plans are great, but I find them very dreary.
Yeah, they are.
Item 1, do you have people from the prior business who would give you testimonials as to the quality and value you've done? 2, are there people who worked in the events teams or involved in the pharmaceutical company who know people elsewhere? By the way, the answer to that latter question is yes, in case you were wondering.
Yes, I do.
Right.
Yes.
So it's not a cold call, is it? You can, if they don't hate you, and you notice how I phrase it, I didn't say if they like you or love you. If they don't hate you, nothing stops you from calling somebody who you have provided a service to before and say, as you know, as they do know, the contract's ended, but you know what? I love doing what I'm doing. I'm looking forward to doing more of it. Is there anybody you know you could put me in touch with who might be interested in what I'm doing? Number one thing you can do is talk to somebody who's satisfied with you, because they're highly likely to know. And the good news is it's not a cold call. It's not a suspect. It's not a prospect. It's a customer. Are you in a position to make those calls?
Yes, there's 2 or 3 people I could probably contact.
You sound deeply hesitant.
Yeah, so let's just try a different track here. So in your 2.5 years running BMD events, working broadly for one company, did you run a lot of events, one event a year, or how many events did you run?
On average, 35 a year.
Right.
On my own.
As a business person, I wouldn't employ somebody to run events for me to reach my key customers 35 times if I thought you were rubbish. Right? So that company and pharmaceutical companies have a lot of money, and they can run many events and use many different people, has chosen to run it with you 35 plus times. The reason why they've done that is you're really good at this. That's clearly the evidence, yeah? Now, the people that you ran those events for, that have been the marketing department or whatever sort of thing, those people are moving around all the time. It's just because they have concluded the contract because of some accountant somewhere, sorry, no offence to accountants in the room, has taken took a red line to it and said, sorry, that's something we're going to have to hold back on. Doesn't mean to say suddenly the 35 times you ran successful events wasn't wonderful, right? So now we have to find a new place to reposition you with that company, because I think the first place to go back to is that company, and go back with another proposition which is perhaps cheaper or low risk or smaller in scale, and say, look, we've run these events before, they work really well, I understand the marketing budget has been reduced. However, I've re-looked at the model, we can use a cheaper venue or slightly less extravagant meals or whatever it might be, and come up with a package which is, say, 50% of what it was before. So that's one place to go. Secondly, because you've been so successful for 35 events, you must have had gazillions of people go to those events. All kinds of doctors or drugs buyers or pharmaceutical consumers, etc.
Yeah, they were doctors, nurses, NHS people, internal staff. I worked a lot with some very senior people within the company.
So all those people are being marketed to by a whole range of other companies besides the one you've been working with. So even if you don't know people there, you have got an unbelievably strong, legitimate track record. And passing that up into just an email in a few key bullet points and getting that out to those people, or sending a mail shot, even a physical snail mail even, getting it out there to those similar companies, lots of pharmaceutical companies, lots of medical supplies companies, all those kinds of things, getting that out to them, because what you've done has been enormously successful. So you just need to repeat that and find an organisation with a budget now rather than an organisation which has had a budget cut.
And what's interesting what Nick says is the large pharmaceutical company you were working with is large. Therefore, one part and another part are not necessarily as closely tied as you may think. But your route from one to the other is through people you've met and know, introducing you to people you haven't met and don't yet know. And somebody actually put it up here, essentially amplifying what Nick just said, tap into the guest list of your prior events. Right there behind Nick, and he couldn't have even seen that, right? The fact of the matter is, you've got a double legitimacy. But here's what you shouldn't do, and what I am inferring from what got you up here on stage. You don't want to start from ground zero with cold calling or cold marketing to unknowns.
No, and that is...
No, I know you don't want to, but you shouldn't as well.
You shouldn't.
But there's no reason
really
to. There's no
does.
purpose served.
Well, I want to tap into other markets.
Why?
You're great at pharmaceuticals. You have a fantastic track record of pharmaceuticals. It's a huge sector full of very large companies with huge budgets. You've been doing it brilliantly. That sounds like a pretty good place to start.
Well, one of the problems, sort of going back into large pharmaceutical companies, is that a lot of them don't want to work with someone like me. I'm too small. I haven't got the $1 million, $2 million sitting in my bank account.
Hang on.
That's what they want. That's what procurement looks at now.
They do and they don't. Here, I've got good news for you. There have been recessions before, and large pharmaceutical companies are not nearly, well, it's not, I won't single them out. Large corporations are not that sophisticated. And so, yes, times have changed. Procurement is looking at different things. But procurement doesn't make the initial decision. Procurement makes the final decision. And their final decision is heavily influenced by the person in the corporation who has sent it to procurement. And if somebody sends something to procurement, the first question they generally ask whoever is actually putting the event on, is there somebody you want to work with? That's how you get onto the last tender anyways, generally. And so I'm not suggesting you're going to solve the procurement issue. You're going to solve the issue that comes before procurement. That's all I'm talking about. People you know, introducing you to people you don't know. But your best opportunity as a business is to leverage what you've done and to put yourself back into the same marketplace and just take one incredibly small step to a new group of people, either in the same corporation or another one, or people in the consuming audience, thus in the NHS, which is going to and must still spend a lot of money on lots of small events. And I think what you should focus on is building the small. Don't try to be for large events. We're going to run out of time, so I just wanted to point out that, goodness gracious, I do think raw feedback is a wonderful thing. So people are saying things like, I can't help feeling there's something we're not being told about this business. What is the real issue? I think that person's inherently suspicious. What can I say?
The real issue for me
there is one? Oh my God.
No, it's just initiating those phone calls.
Hang on. I can solve this issue right now. Ask me if I will hire you to put on an event. Ask me.
Doug, would you hire me to put on an event?
No. Now,
Right.
We've dealt with the no. The worst thing that can possibly happen to you is done and dusted, and you conquered it. And you know what? You're just as smart, you're just as intelligent as you were before. Now you go on and the next person will say yes. See how easy that was?
But why wouldn't you hire me
Because
to do
I'm not a
it?
bloody pharmaceutical company.
You don't have to be. You don't
I
have to
don't,
be.
but the good news is no's become yeses. And it gets no worse than that. It only gets better.
Yeah.
And so if you could survive that, you can survive anything. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Sally. Thank you very much.